Hey, what's going on guys? Raj here. Today I'm going to be doing a comparison video. I'm going to be comparing two fragrances, one from the house of by Kilian, and that is Rose Oud, and one from Czech Speake, and that is Dark Rose. This whole idea was suggested to me from by a good friend, a fellow reviewer, Lupe, over at the Lupe Experience. It's a good idea, and if you haven't checked out his channel, definitely check it out and subscribe. So these two fragrances, rose-based, oud-based. Some people might say that this is just another example of a company jumping on the oud bandwagon and just another rose-oud combination fragrance. But you know, I thought about it, and sometimes I agree with that, but sometimes I think, you know, I would rather live in a world where there are plenty of oud fragrances, plenty of rose and oud combo fragrances out there than none at all. You know, some people might say that it's just a trend, it's just a fad. But oud has been a note used in Arab, you know, Middle Eastern perfumery for several years before it became popular here in the West. And you know, I don't see people complaining about citrus fragrances or sandalwood fragrances, which there are plenty out there on the market. So sometimes oud maybe gets a little bit of criticism, which is a little bit unfair. I like the note, and I like rose and oud, so you know, this was good for me. So let's start off with let's go with by Kilian's Rose Oud. So I've got the little sample here, used it all up. The notes in this one are Turkish rose, oud, saffron and cardamom. Quite a pricey one, you know, a 50 ml of this in the refill format is going to cost you £110 or $185, and obviously it gets more expensive if you get the box and everything. So, you know, I like this fragrance. I definitely think there's quality in this one, I can't deny that. I find it a little bit difficult to get on with in the top as the fragrance just starts out on your skin. I find that there's a bit of a contrast, a bit of a mismatch here, which doesn't quite work, and I don't find it agreeable. So there's a fresh rose note in here. It says it's Turkish rose. It smells quite sweet, almost quite fresh at the same time. But the thing is, it's dominated by this note, which I just have no idea what it is. Obviously, I've got the note breakdown in front of me. It doesn't smell like an oud I've come across. It smells quite dank, like a damp dishcloth, which is not exactly the best smelling thing you'll ever come across. It doesn't feel right to me. It's quite off-putting in some ways. The note, if it is authentic oud, and if it is the oud note I'm picking up, kind of reminds me a little bit of Maison Francis Kurkdjian's oud fragrance, which I'm not a massive fan of, to be honest. I don't like that style, or that type of oud. I don't know what country it's from. It doesn't quite work for me, to be honest. In the opening, it kind of reminds me of like a bonfire which has been rained on in the forest somewhere, and all you're left is with this muddy bonfire. It's woody, it's smouldering away, it's a little bit dirty. You know, I just don't feel that it works really well with the oud, with the rose, which is kind of like bursting to get out, trying to get out from this dirty, dank smell, but it's kind of smothered by it, to be honest. The fragrance is then accompanied in the mid with a woody scent. Maybe it's this oud which is starting to open up a little bit, starting to freshen up a little bit as well. And this is where the fragrance gets a little bit more interesting, but I don't find it anything more than that. I wouldn't say that this is a fragrance that excites me. It's definitely good, but I just find it hard to get on with this fragrance, especially if you're getting close to it. Sometimes I find when you're at a distance, it does smell quite nice actually. The rose comes through a little bit more, but it's not the best rose and not the best oud fragrance I've ever come across. In the base, it starts to, this woodiness develops into, you know, in a children's playground you have these wood chips which you might find on the ground, like next to the swings or something like that. It smells like they've just been soaked in rain, and they're starting to be a little bit moldy in some ways. You know, it's not, again, not a nice smell which you might like to come across, and it's okay. It's overall, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Rose Oud by Kilian. but there's definitely quality in there in some parts. The woody notes are actually quite nice. The fresh rose is definitely there, but they're just dominated by this very weird smelling note, which is kind of a little bit difficult to describe. I don't really pick up any of the saffron or the cardamom, and they're quite potent spices, but I just don't pick them up. Actually, I think what I'll do now is actually go on to, I wasn't going to mention this, but performance-wise, the projection of this is really good, and longevity of this is really, really good, really last a long time on your skin. It doesn't quit. We're talking double digits here, easily 10 hours, no problem. So if that's something that appeals to you, this would be a good fragrance for you. Moving on now to Dark Rose from Czech Speake, the British company. This is actually the shape of the bottle, and I got this in their sample pack. You get 10 samples for £2.50. Check out the website for that. You can buy this for £75, 100 ml, so you're getting double the amount here for a cheaper price, and that's $150, which is, I've noticed this before, that Czech Speake prices in the US are maybe not as good as here in the UK. So in the top notes there is saffron and Bulgarian rose. In the mid there's patchouli, sandalwood, oud and exotic woods. In the dry down there is musk and ambergris. Now this is fragrant. This is definitely my style. This is definitely my style when it comes to rose and oud. Nothing too over the top, nothing too loud, but it stays at a really nice level. Doesn't become subtle straight away. It does later on in the fragrance. Basically, what I get from here is a very, very sweet rose. Not a feminine. It's not even masculine. It's pretty unisex, and I would say both of these fragrances which I'm talking about are unisex. And the oud note in here is much more to my liking. I find it very authentic actually as well. I actually have some oud wood chips at home which I burn from time to time, and it smells almost identical to what I have. So smooth, touch of smokiness there in the background, maybe coming from the patchouli, maybe coming from the sandalwood, but really the star of this show is the rose and the oud. They combine to just make a perfect mix, really good quality. The saffron tends to come in now and again, and it's more there in the top of the fragrance than anything. It adds a really nice spiciness to it. It sort of fleshes out this fragrance a bit more and makes it even more interesting. Something which I really enjoy. Even though I do enjoy this top, and the mid of this fragrance is kind of interesting as well, it doesn't have that wow factor with me, but I still would prefer Dark Rose over Rose Oud from by Kilian. The dry down is a little bit subtle, closer to the skin, but it still projects quite well, and it does last a long time. Not as long as by Kilian's Rose Oud, but it definitely has good potency when it comes to performance. It's kind of like a musky dry down. The patchouli musk combination is actually pretty good. I do enjoy this fragrance from top to bottom, and I can't really fault it in terms of scent. I would probably say that I would like it to last a little bit longer on my skin, but again, that's just personal preference. So overall, you know, when it comes down to which one do I prefer, Dark Rose from by Kilian gets my vote. I find it much more agreeable. I find the oud to be, I'm not going to say better quality, because there's so many different types of ouds out there, and they smell very, very different. You know, from different countries, they can vary a lot. This is more my style, and I definitely would recommend this fragrance a lot. Rose Oud definitely is good, and there is quality in there, but I find myself looking at it and thinking, this is a quality fragrance, but not one that I want to own. So overall, Czech Speake, Dark Rose definitely wins, and it's actually a pretty good house. There's a few fragrances in here worth checking out. Some of them are kind of okay, average. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think. Have you tried these fragrances? Do you like oud? Do you like this Rose Oud combination? Do you have any other suggestions other than these two which you think are worth checking out? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.